Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. And before we do get into it, I wanted to give you a couple of warnings that it contains talk of drug abuse and death by overdose as well. So if you do want to skip the story, please feel free to do so, totally understandable, and let's crack on with it. The story is titled, Am I the Arsehole Here for Telling My Fiancée to Get Over Her Dead Ex-Boyfriend? My fiancée, female 33, and I, male 36, have been together for 3 years. She was with her previous boyfriend for around 3 years and they have 2 young kids together. He died from an overdose 2 weeks ago. He'd been struggling with addiction off and on since before they were together. I've known him since childhood but wasn't close. I can say he was a very friendly, outgoing, charismatic guy when he was clean. He was the type of guy where if he was around you'd stand no chance with the girls because they were all interested in him. Eventually she broke up with him due to his addiction issues, but ensured that he still had a relationship with his kids. Recently that's been supervised visitations at his parents' house after he lost his job, lost his license and failed a court-mandated drug testing. I believe he made some genuine attempts to get clean. He was trying. I wanted him to succeed because I've always thought he was a good guy and his kids deserve that version of him. I became the stable day-to-day father figure, which I willingly took on, but respected that he was their dad and that they loved him. Since he died, she's been a mess. Yesterday she stayed in bed all day before sitting outside at night crying for at least an hour. Today is Father's Day, and she practically woke up crying. I know she's not just sad that he's gone, but she's sad for her kids. I know it was devastating for her to have to tell her 2 very young children that their dad was dead. She's been moping around for 2 weeks, crying non-stop, calling off work. I told her she really needs to snap out of it. She told me, I love him so much. He was the love of my life and I'll never love anyone that much. I guess that was the last straw for me. And I told her to get over him or I'm out. I'm not going to be second in her heart after a dead guy she hasn't even been in a relationship with for years. She told me I'm not being empathetic and I have no tact. I'm an arsehole and he was never that mean to her regardless of what was going on. Yeah, it's easy to not be an arsehole when you're strung out on heroin or stay drunk 24/7 and are the happy type of drunk. Am I the arsehole here for telling her to get over him and that I won't stick around if she's still in love with him / sees him as the love of her life / says she won't ever love anyone else like that again? I really want to know if this was an arsehole thing to say or ultimatum to give. Now for me, straight away coming off of that, and this might be a hot take, so I'm going to be very interested in the comments on this one, but if I was with someone who said, I love him so much, he was the love of my life and I'll never love anyone that much, that would fuck me up. There's no 2 ways about it. I know in my head that would mess me up. And like I always say in stories, when you lose someone, grief does weird things to people, and she may have just said that in the heat of the moment, but she still said it, and I believe that she means it. And don't get me wrong, of course it's going to hurt her. She did love him regardless. But as soon as I read that line, and it's always easy for me to say reading it, I was like, no, I wouldn't want to be someone's number 2, But the first commenter comes in and quotes saying, I know she's not just sad that he's gone, but she's sad for her kids. I know it was devastating for her to have to tell her 2 very young children that their dad was dead. And then says, I'll be honest with you. I was leaning heavily to her side after reading this because it's true. Kids that age can't understand, and dealing with the genuine questions from the kids would be heartbreaking, especially after it having been only 2 weeks. And quotes again saying, she told me I love him so much, he was the love of my life and I'll never love anyone that much. The commenter continues, but then I read that. Probably an utterance without thinking about it, probably an emotional outburst, but I'm 100% certain it's honest. That right there is the game changer. Let's recognize the truth here. You are only ever going to be a placeholder for the chance she could get back with him. If he got clean, she'd have dropped your ass and gone back. Find someone on her side of the family dependable enough to ensure the kids are okay, and then get out. Don't ever settle for being second best in love unless it's the children you've chosen to raise as your own, be they yours or not. End the relationship cleanly and quickly, legally if necessary, but get out, get away, and get on with your life. Not the arsehole. Best of luck, my friend. Opie responded saying I'm certain she was being honest too. She hasn't even tried to backtrack or deny it. Before she actually said it with words, I found her repeatedly kissing his picture and this bracelet he gave her. I'm sorry, that's just too much for me. Laying in bed with his picture, kissing it over and over. Clear-headed quotes the section about I love him so much again, then says, you know where you stand now, if you didn't already. Not the arsehole, but unless you're prepared to be her eternal plan B, it's time to leave, yes? Staying knowing she settled for you must be heartbreaking. Apologize for your lack of empathy and tell her that despite this, the knowledge she settled for you is not something you can live with. Opie responded saying it's left me wondering if she was in love with him this whole time and only with me for the sake of stability for her and her kids. This is the first time she said any of this out loud to me. I was sure she loved him at one point. Her Facebook is still filled with post after post talking about how much she loves him, and she never posted anything like that about me. Totally childish to bring up Facebook posts, I know. I just wouldn't leave a bunch of posts extolling my love for an ex-girlfriend up there after I'd broken up with them and was in a new relationship. Not that I ever made near daily posts about my love for somebody like she did. Next commenter says, absolutely. When you take some time and start looking back at the relationship, I'm sure you will see signs of that you previously ignored. Opie responds saying, like all of the sexual things I found out she did with him, I found that out through somebody else. I didn't ask for that info. She never told me. I've never been one to be too concerned with body counts or a woman's sexual past. I think men who get hung up on those things are laughable. But hearing some of the things, that was definitely a shocker. Just a different person than I know and sounds like a totally different type of sexual relationship. Looking at it through my current lens, it now makes sense if what she said about her feelings is true. We have sex, but looking at it from my current lens, there's not much passion, excitement, or adventure in that area, and she has never seemed receptive to my attempts to incorporate those things into our sex life. I figured that was just how she was. Vanilla. I respected that, still always enjoyed it. Now I fear she's not really that way, but it's just a reflection of her feelings towards me. Or maybe I'm just coming from a place of major insecurity and jealousy after what she said, which I can acknowledge could be true. But Opie came in with an update and said, I'm shocked by the amount of responses my original post received. There are more comments and DMs than I could ever respond to. I'm still not sure if the consensus was that I was the arsehole or not. Although the post said that he was not the arsehole, but doesn't really matter. It ended up just being more useful for me to vent in a way I didn't know I needed to. I honestly don't know if this can be a long-term relationship for me moving forward. I'm going to do my best to be understanding and supportive to a degree. I've decided to try and help her connect with a grief counselor or maybe a therapist in general and see how willing she is to work through all of this. Hope she is willing for herself and her kids. I also don't expect her to get over everything overnight, but she's going to have to work with me to try and function a little bit. If she continues to behave the way she does about his death without making any efforts to help herself deal with it, I won't sit around forever. I calmly asked her if she meant what she said about him being the love of her life and being in love with him, present tense. I need to know because that's only fair to me. If it's the truth, then we need to slow this thing down. I didn't say end it, just slow down. I can accept that she can't change how she feels, but I at least deserve for her to be honest with me. She said she loves me, but her love for him is different. She's never felt love so intensely. She was deliriously in love with him. She's never felt that way for any other man, before or since, and she can't guarantee that she ever will again. He will always be her number one, and she knows how crazy that sounds given all of his problems. She said maybe being with him and dealing with his issues and the heartbreak has made her heart closed off now. She doesn't think she will ever feel as happy as she felt at her peak happiness with him when everything was good. They were supposed to get married. The person she experienced the most intimate things in life with is dead. She asked if I was going to accuse her of cheating on me with him next. I told her I wasn't going to accuse her of that. I seriously never had any suspicions of that. She doesn't believe me. She says she can tell that's what I'm thinking. Then she said the honest truth was that one time she did walk with him and hold hands, and kissed him and told him she loved him. That was 2 years ago when she was out at a street fair with friends. He was there with his friends. They spent time together reminiscing about when they were together and happy. She claims that's as far as it went, and it was still very much understood in that moment that they couldn't be together. She claims to be happy with her life and with me, but she doesn't know if she can get over his death, and if I can't accept that, I should just leave. He will always be her special person, and she will always be his special person, and they were supposed to be together. She can't stop replaying what might have been his last moments in her head. She blames herself because she worries there might have been a correlation between our engagement just weeks prior. She ran to the front door and said he was standing in this exact spot perfectly alive 2 days before he died. To clarify, he was at our house briefly to drop their kids off after a scheduled visitation time. I was there. He stood in the doorway talking for a few minutes. Nothing else happened. She also believes there's some way for her to turn back time and prevent it, and can't accept that there's no way to go back in time. I chose to remain largely silent. Not out of cruelty, but I didn't want to say anything that I might regret. I spoke out of anger last time, and I couldn't quite find the right way to say anything nice or comforting. So I remained largely silent as she let all of this out. I told her I appreciated her honesty. I'm very hurt by what she said. It makes me feel like shit. It makes me hate this guy. Yeah, I feel jealous, I can admit it. However, I don't think it's an appropriate time to make any major decisions. As someone who cares for her, I just want to see her be well right now. In some of the memorial posts I read after his death, many people were reminding others to be kind to others experiencing struggles. I'm going to do my best to do that for her right now. Several comments in my previous post stated something along the lines of, grief can make people do crazy things. That doesn't mean I'm chalking what she said solely up to grief, but I believe there's some truth in the sentiment about grief. I know there are plenty of people who will think this makes me a chump or a cuck or whatever. I'm not going to try and change anyone's mind, and I probably won't be posting any further updates regarding what happens from here. This is somebody I love that I was planning to make a life with, so even if it doesn't end up happening, I'm going to do my best to help her as a fellow human being right now. I'm sure I'll screw up and say or do something that makes me out to be a jerk again. This is hard for me to continue to remain understanding, but I can't see myself just absconding from their lives overnight, and I'm not ready to throw in the towel yet. So there were some top comments with replies from OP. First commenter said she's not ready for a relationship. You need to cut your losses and move on. Otherwise, what you are experiencing currently will be your future 100% of the time. And then some people were saying that she's trickle-truthing OP and she may admit to more cheating if pressed. OP says, I didn't press it any further. I wasn't even going to ask her about cheating in the first place. I'm not sure if that's because I really never suspected anything or because if anything had happened I wasn't ready to hear about it right now. I don't think she told me to hurt me, but she seemed happy thinking about it as she said it. Another commenter says, dude, everyone is giving sympathy to her. Sounds like she has support. You have no one looking out for you, not even yourself. You are sacrificing yourself for her. Every time you talk to her about it, she doubles down. She is not going to see you differently with time. You will never measure up to her ex. She cheated on you, pined for some other guy the entirety of your relationship. She regrets getting engaged to you because now she thinks it's contributed to him ODing. She is going to resent you because you're here and he's not. Hope you take some time to distance yourself and get some clarity because this is never going to turn out the way you want it to. Alonzo Collector says, honestly, they aren't your kids, it isn't your problem. No matter how much you feel obliged. Don't feel pressured into being their father, especially after their real dad passing. If you had one of your own with her, it would be different. OP responded and said the thing is, these facts won't matter to the kids or their feelings. It's not like I'm just their mum's boyfriend they might see a few times a week. We live together. I'm there every day with her helping with homework, going to the dance recitals, coaching the soccer team. I am very much family to them now and was planning to officially be their stepfather. These are the things they know and it'd be incredibly cruel to suddenly leave, especially in this moment. I'm an adult. My dad didn't just die suddenly. My mom isn't so stuck in her grief that she can barely function. I can stick things out in their best interest for now. And I agree with that top comment on that update that that she's not ready for a relationship. And the difficult thing that I find is the kids involved here. You know, Opie does have a relationship with these children, and you know, it's never going to get easier. It's always going to get more difficult the longer he hangs around, and he's going to need to tear off that band-aid at some point. And I kind of felt like he's doing a lot of this for the kids, that, you know, when he leaves, she might spiral, and he doesn't want that for the children. And these kids will be grieving themselves, and, you know, they just lost their father, and then another father figure walk out of their life. Oh, man. So messy. But in the end, I think that Opie needs to talk to some people close to her to get her the support she needs. And I hate saying it because of the children involved in this. You know, I don't blame Opie for separating from her at all. It's just the kids involved. You know, I know he's setting himself on fire to keep other people warm, but if he talks to other people to get to support her so the kids are safe as possible, and then getting himself out of that situation, because unless she gets professional help, I can't see her changing anytime soon. But now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of that situation? Would you take yourself out of it immediately? Would you hang around potentially for the kids' sake? That's what I kind of feel like OP was doing a bit. Would you tackle it in a different way? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. So our next story comes from the Am I the Arsehole subreddit from IcyStable9441 and says, am I the arsehole for walking away from my father-in-law's wife after she spoke negatively about my wife during my sister-in-law's wedding? My wife's younger sister got married 3 weeks ago. For the wedding, my wife filled the role that should have been filled by their mum, but she passed away when my wife was a teenager, and her siblings were younger again, and my wife stepped up as the family mum. It ruined her relationship with her dad in the process because she had to mother him as well and had to take care of the family. She wanted him to be a better dad than that, but he was not capable at the time. To this day, things are strained. My wife's siblings live with her for a period of time after she left as well. There is some conflict about this because after my wife turned 18 and moved out, her dad got remarried. There has always been a tension between my wife and father-in-law's wife over the role my wife plays, and the role father-in-law's wife wanted to play. My wife's younger siblings did not end up looking to father-in-law's wife as a maternal figure, and instead continued looking to my wife. This is something we all know bothers father-in-law's wife, at least to some degree. This is why my sister-in-law's decision to have my wife fill the role on her wedding day brought forth some comments from father-in-law's wife. It was more about the tradition they do in their family, which may or may not be related to a cultural thing in their mum's family. But their family always had the bride spend the night before and right up until the wedding with her mum. They don't leave each other's sides and they help each other get ready together. My wife did this with her sister. Father-in-law's wife wanted to be a part of this. She was upset previously when my wife didn't invite her to do it for our wedding, but it was a bigger deal with sister-in-law because they lived together for 6 to 7 years. Father-in-law's wife found me during an in-between moment, and she told me my wife must be so happy she got to keep her out of yet another one of the weddings, and how smug my wife must have been that she wasn't thought of enough to be invited in alongside the two sisters, and was basically a +1 and nothing more. I told her I did not appreciate her talking about my wife in that way, and she started to make another comment, so I walked away from her without saying another word. She stewed on that for the rest of the wedding, and days later brought it up to my in-laws and demanded an apology from me. My wife told her I did not owe her an apology for walking away in the way in which I did. Am I the arsehole? You dealt with that in a pretty calm way in my opinion, and probably the best way to not create any additional drama. Although with someone like that, they will always create drama, in which they did. Demanding an apology for you walking away while they was insulting your wife. What fucking planet are they from? But Royally Oaky says not the arsehole. Frankly, you are a lot kinder and classier than most people would have been. I would have given her a 2-word response. Wish her luck on that apology. Exquisite Boobs says not the arsehole. I walked away because I didn't want to tell you to fuck off. I suspect you would have started screeching if I did, and I didn't want you to ruin the wedding day. One more comment from Archetyping who says not the arsehole. Your wife agrees with you, so you're good. Mother-in-law has an issue with being excluded, but this tradition was entirely up to the sister-in-law getting married. It was her decision to exclude your mother-in-law. If she has an issue with it, she should be discussing it with your sister-in-law, not you. It feels like she's just jealous of your wife and blaming her for why she doesn't feel included. I always get like the little scenarios in my head. Can you imagine that very end one where she was stewing on it for the rest of the wedding and days later brought it up to the in-laws and demanding an apology? Can you imagine that conversation if she was telling the truth and she stood there and didn't think, fuck me, I'm an idiot? Like I said, if she told the truth and she was telling the in-laws like, I was having a go about his wife and he just walked away from me. How dare he? I want an apology. I mean, what kind of batshit logic is that? Anyway, what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. I still can't get the scenario out of my head. I hope you have a lovely day and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.